Hey there, this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark. Welcome to episode 3 of the Europa walkthrough. And today we're going to talk about, this is a meat and potatoes episode. So we're going to talk about some of the less flashy things, but very important nonetheless. So to cover, we're going to do master volume, the mixer, the filter, the amp, and user wave. It's going to be a little dense, but let's get into it, and hopefully by the end of this, you won't have any questions about where to go to find some of the basic functions of Europa. So first, let's look at the user wave, because this is a fairly unique function for a lot of things. Let's find some random wave. And here, we'll turn these off. And then we're going to change this to user wave. And you get different results depending on what you're selecting. So let's do that for our user wave. Now let's try a different one. So I think you might get the idea there that we heard how long that sample was, but we got something very different when we actually started playing with it. So there's where the user wave section is. So when we get into this later, you got to go here to actually select and insert your user wave. So numero uno. Right underneath that is the mixer. Don't think there's going to be any confusion about the mixer, but let's just make sure you know. So you've got 1, 2, and 3 for your engines, your 3 different engines. And then you have your 3 mixer volumes. Each one of them does have a pan. So you can pan your different sounds, very important. But there you go. That's where you're controlling your engine. So just, remember when you're like, this one's too loud, you go down there, turn it up, whatever the case may be. Let's look at the filter, this master filter right here. Engine 1 to filter, engine 2 to filter, engine 3 to filter. So that's how you're turning it on. I know, pretty simple, right? So now it has this pretty sweet drive that I happen to really like. And depending on what you're selecting here, you can see it's reacting differently. You see that little light is a little bit different. And you have to play with it based on which of your filters that you've selected. So resonance, I think everybody probably knows what resonance does. If you've played with a soft synth, then you've seen a resonance knob most likely. Frequency does exactly what you would expect it to do. Then your keyboard, that's the amount the filter applies to the key where you're at on the keyboard. So I have no keyboard effect here. Let's turn the resonance up, and we'll do we're on a low pass. So we shouldn't see a significant effect if we're at the top of the keyboard. It treats it the same. You know, let's put an envelope. And then let's go to the other end. So you can see it affects the sound. So this is the same as Thor, if you watch that series, and many other soft synths. This isn't Propellerheads original. This envelope knob that you just saw me playing with, this is where you start to unlock some power, and then this velocity 2 envelope knob. So how hard you hit it affects it. Soft, hard. So let's go through these filters, and we'll take a look at this analyzer while we do it. This is the Melda audio analyzer, Melda production analyzer. So I've used it on lots of other videos. You can get it for free, or you can pay for it. State variable filter, SVF, high pass, 12 decibel octave slope. So this is this and the band pass and the low pass. All three of those very similar to Thor, and then there's the notch as well. Thor pretty much has the same thing. They took a lot of the best parts of Thor and put them into Europa, but they packed more of a punch in this because it can do more. So we got high pass, and you can see we're cutting out the lows there. Then we got band pass. You can watch it select the band there. And then we got low pass. All right, simple enough. Kind of sounds like a tuba. It's not a tuba. Then notch. See that notch? Watch it move. Ooh, look at it go. Hey, little notchy. All right. And then we get into ladder low pass. So this ladder low pass can be driven to self-oscillate, which means like that, self-oscillating. And that's something we played with a lot in the Thor series, self-oscillating filters, and you're making it basically feedback on itself, and it creates a feedback loop, which then creates a tone. So, you know, that's fun to play with sometimes. And it's a 24 decibel slope on this ladder, low pass, 24 dB. Now, the next few, a little different. MFB, multiple feedback. So you got low pass 12 decibels, you got low pass with 24, and then high pass with 24. So let's do the 24. Yeah, real resonant. And that drive sounds good. I'm gonna start goofing off here. I should pay attention. Yeah, that's a fun one there to watch it sweep those harmonics. You know, just for fun here. Filter, frequency. Let's see, LFO. So you get the idea, I hope, with both of those guys. Just one of them's a low pass, one of them's a high pass. And then this K35 low pass 12 dB. So Propellerheads describes it as an early MS-20 type of low-pass filter with 12 dB octave slope, and it can be driven to self-oscillate also. And it's got a little bit more warmth to it, to me. So be aware that, you know, that's a nice sounding low pass. There's some of that self-oscillation. So that's, the drive actually kills the self-oscillation, interesting enough. So you can hear my LFO still pulsing. So danger there. Just watch out when you're bumping up that resonance. And because you might end up feeding back a little bit too much. So let's look at, what is this? What do we got here? So we got envelope 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So envelope 1, 2, 3, 4. Coincidence? I think not. So I want envelope 4 with the chunka to affect the filter, max effect, or the frequency of the filter. And we did it just like that. All right. Then we got LFO 1, 2, 3. So I changed my mind. I want LFO 1 to affect it. And we did it just like that. And then we got velocity. I just want how hard I hit the keys to affect this frequency here. So here I'll hit soft. Now I'll hit hard. Soft. Hard. So I hope you can hear what that's doing. Mod wheel. Oh, it's over here. Look at that mod wheel. There it is. Okay, simple enough. The key, where I'm at on the keyboard. So I'm on the low end. All right, now I'm going to go to the high end. Middle. You can hear that filter affecting it more and more as we go. And then random. Sure, random. See what it does. So, just so you know what I'm doing. Every note a little bit different. And then finally, this filter velocity here. The velocity of the note affects how much we're going to get from this filter. Oh, wait just one moment. There's more. Inverted. So you've got everything that we just talked about, but the inverted version of it. So let's do envelope 4, which pretty much sounds the same because it's just flipping it the other way, versus LFO, the inverse. There's LFO 1. So I hope that makes sense to you there. Velocity, same thing. If you want to hit soft and versus hit hard. So I'm hitting hard and I'm getting a whole bunch of nothing. Now I'm going to hit soft. So hope that makes sense there. And this is a low pass. So, and then inverse of the key, inverse of random. So, error right there. Inverse mod wheel, inverse key, inverse random. So there you go. And then velocity. So how hard I hit the key directly affects how much this filter, this is going to affect the frequency. That's hard. soft. And then in the case of your LFOs, you know, it's constant. Here, we'll speed it up. Hard. Soft. Very soft. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's talk about the amp real quick. Not too complicated here. Pan, gain, velocity to gain. So if you want the keyboard, the notes to get louder when you hit harder, you're going to have to adjust that velocity to gain, just like that. Attack, decay, sustain, release. Standard ADSR envelope. If you don't know what that is, there's probably some other video on the internet you can watch. Then master volume. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. That's self-explanatory. Number of voices. 16 is the max on this one. I have mixed feelings about that. Then 1 monophonic. Then, not to be confused with, over here, your key modes, poly, retrig, legato. So poly, you know, multiple notes at one time. Then retrig, if it's going to retrigger, filter, or retrigger the note every time. And this, if you combine retrig with portamento versus on or auto, so it's replaying the note. This is, if you don't understand this already, best to just experiment with it, because I could talk about it for an hour and then you play with it for 5 minutes and you're going to immediately understand what it does. And then legato. Turns it into monophonic instrument. Because you can see still there's 16 voices, but portamento, I've turned portamento off. Now it's on. And then auto. So auto, auto is you don't get the initial note sweep from the last note played. So see there, when it's on, I play low, high. And it sweeps back down when I hit the first note. Auto. It doesn't sweep down back to that first note. And then time is your portamento, amount of time. Is it a long slide or is it a slow slide? So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. And I think for all of your global, and then your pitch and mod wheel. So I think we know what those do. Pitch bend, modulation. Of course, the modulation can be assigned to lots of different stuff. Let's see here. If I do mod wheel, performance mod wheel, and then I assign it to filter drive. So let's do one of these guys. Oh, and you know what you got to do? You got to do that. So you can hear my drive applying itself. And so take note. Let's do this off. So there, and I've got my drive all the way down here. So you see it start to kick in. Now, if I do it this way, I don't have anywhere to go. So that's something to be aware of if you are trying to use, you're using your modulation, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be drive. If you're all the way to the max on something and you're trying to adjust it with your mod wheel, this is, unless you do a negative number, then it doesn't have anywhere to go. So if I'm all the way up and I start, so that's the mod to the max, or drive to the max, and then I'm turning the drive down. So I hope that makes sense there. Just leave me a comment if you have any questions. So there we go. There's all of the master kind of meat and potatoes basic stuff that you probably know most of that already if you're familiar with soft synths. If not, I hope you learned something. And we're going to play with a lot of this more in depth. The next episode, we talk about envelopes. This is going to go a little bit contrary. We're not going exactly from top to bottom. I'm trying to do it in a more logical way, because when we get to wave, that episode's going to be like an hour long. It's going to be a huge episode because there's so many wave options that just to explore through all of them is going to take a while. So I wanted to get all this basic stuff out of the way. So like I said, next episode, we're going to talk about envelopes, and that's going to be pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with envelopes and how they work, then you might be able to skip most of it, but hopefully not. Hopefully you'll watch it. So like and subscribe. You know how all that stuff goes, and thanks for your eyes and ears on this one. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.